All right, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're going to talk about two of the best young fighters coming up in boxing, Shakur Stevenson and Chris Colbert. Chris Colbert criticizes Shakur Stevenson, and Shakur Stevenson snaps back at him and says, "I will fight you any day." Let's talk about that in this video. Welcome back to the channel. I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of conversation that goes on in boxing about how American boxing is dead. And I'm telling you, you guys can absolutely forget that. There's a lot of very, very good fighters. And I am really happy that I get to talk about another weight class, 130-pound division, where we might, cross fingers, get a really good fight between two top-level 130-pounders. And that is Shakur Stevenson, who's the WBO champion, and Chris Colbert, a lot less talked about, but almost as good a fighter in my opinion. I think he's almost as good a fighter, who should be fighting for the WBA super title against a guy named Gutierrez coming up pretty soon. And if Chris Colbert fights Gutierrez, it's my bet that Chris Colbert is going to wind up being the WBA super champion at 130 pounds at the same time that Shakur Stevenson is the WBO champion. Well, the reason that I'm saying these guys should be fighting is that Shakur Stevenson, and I told you he would do it. I'm still very, very happy about it, rubbing it in people's faces. Absolutely dominated JAMEL Herring on the way to, I believe it was a 10th round stoppage last weekend to win the WBO 130-pound title. It's his second title, major championship title. He won the WBO title at 126, and now he's won it in the 130 pound and 130-pound division, and he did it in a way that was very, very impressive to me. I've heard a lot. I'm probably one of the people that were the most impressed by Shakur Stevenson, but I really think that you don't hear as many people talking about Shakur Stevenson because they've already got some horses in the race and ain't quite willing to admit that Shakur Stevenson might be better than their horses. And by that, I mean the people that are supporting Oscar Valdez, the people that are supporting the fighters up above at 135 pounds, whether that be Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and Gervonta Tank Davis. I think that Shakur Stevenson is showing, at least he's shown to me, that he could be, if not is, one of the best fighters who could be the best fighter of that whole group. But Chris Colbert jumped out there and said something, criticism about the fight for Shakur Stevenson. And what he said was that, you know, he thinks that Shakur Stevenson could have got JAMEL Herring out of there a little bit earlier. He said he being Chris Colbert said he definitely would have got him out of there earlier. And Shakur Stevenson saw that, responded to it, and said, "Look, man, you just went the distance with the 126-pounder whose name is King Tug. That's the 126-pounder, former 126-pounder that Chris Colbert just went the distance with." And he said, "Look, man, you can't punch. You just went the distance with a 126-pounder. You need to relax." So, and this is why it was so fun to me. I then turned around and said, somebody else responded. This is all on Twitter. Responded to Shakur Stevenson and said, you know, something about whether he would fight Chris Colbert. And he said, "Look, man, there's levels to this game, right?" He didn't answer the question cleanly. So then I followed up with Shakur and said, "Look, man, I'm not sure what you mean. Is that a yes or a no? Are you willing to fight him or not?" He said he would fight him any day, but the more important person to ask about that would be Chris Colbert. So he's pulling in. He actually questions whether or not Chris Colbert would fight him. All of this, I understand right now at this point in time, is a lot of positioning or whatever. But just like I said in the beginning of this, man, I am a big fan of American boxing. I know that there's a lot of great boxing all over the world. There are very solid fighters from Japan and the UK, and a lot of really good fighters from Mexico. But I think that the best fighters in the world are from the United States of America. And that, you know, right now we're very weak on the heavyweights, and we've been weak on the heavyweights for a while. But when it comes to any weight class between, say, like from 160 down to 122 pounds. I'm telling you, we got somebody in those weight divisions that can beat the champion in those weight divisions. And this particular weight division, and there's a lot of really divisions where American boxing is stacked. And 130 pounds right now is starting to look very, very stacked in that weight division. It was for a long time, very, very stacked at 154 and 147. And it still is stacked at 154 and 147. At 154, I think JAMEL Charlo kind of ran through that division, but we still have that fight with Brian Castano out of Argentina that's left in that division. At 147, obviously you got the Terrence Crawfords, Errol Spences, Keith Thurmans, Jaron Ennis, Danny Garcia. Is just a plethora of American fighters at 147. At 135, you've got the guys like Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Gervonta Tank Davis there, Ryan Garcia at 135. But at 130, it also seems like now that you've got, we have a real good opportunity to have a mix of fights take place down there because first, you have Shakur Stevenson, who's the WBO champion. However, he is not, that my understanding is he's looking for a fight with Oscar Valdez. But I'm not sure if he's going to get that fight with Oscar Valdez. Personally, I think that, it's not a coincidence that after that Conceição fight was made and Shakur Stevenson, the way that Conceição, Valdez looked against Conceição and the way that that Shakur Stevenson looked with Jamel Herring, I think that is going to be a fight more than likely Top Rank is going to want to hold off on because right now it looks like it's going to be a mop. I mean, it looks like it's going to be moppage going on in there between Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez, and they've sounded like they've been balking on the fight a little bit. So if Shakur Stevenson is going to get a unification fight at 130 pounds, more than likely the guy that he's going to be able to get that against would be Chris Colbert. Right now, the WBA has ordered Chris Colbert and Gutierrez to fight for their WBA Super Championship. Right now, I do believe Chris Colbert is the WBA Silver Champion, and I think that Gutierrez is the WBA Regular Champion. So they've ordered those two guys to fight, and when that fight is done, I completely believe that Chris Colbert is going to win that fight and be a WBA champion, and that would set up a fight between Shakur Stevenson and Chris Colbert. Now, nothing that I'm saying in this particular video do I want to make it seem like there's some rivalry between the two of these guys, because I don't think that there is. Both of these guys are from New Jersey, and honestly, man, that's another reason why that may be a fight that could be very lucrative, man, because those guys are both from the New Jersey, New York area. If those guys were to fight in New York City, I'm sure that would be an opportunity to sell out an arena in New York City. Shakur Stevenson is a known commodity, an Olympic silver medalist. And Chris Colbert is a known commodity in that area, and I'm sure that could bring out a lot of people into that area. I've said the same thing about other fighters from people from close, who are from areas that are close to one another, like Gervonta Davis and Gary Russell Jr. A lot of people that are in the know said that they probably shouldn't fight in that area because of all the stuff that goes on between the rivalries in Baltimore and the rivalry in DC. But still, to have two East Coast fighters fight one another, I'm telling you, that would be a successful box office draw for them. I also think for the people that don't go to the fight, that is a big I think that's what they call it, the megalopolis. There's millions and millions of people in the area. So the TV ratings might go very well. The only question is, could they work that out between Top Rank and PBC? And even there, it seems like there's been a lot more cooperation between Bob Arum's organization and Al Heyman's organization with the fights between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Fight coming up between Terrence Crawford and Sean Porter. And we know when people start working with each other and making money with each other and get used to each other, I think you can count on seeing more and more of that. And also, I think that Top Rank probably doesn't want to be as siloed as it is right now, because when they partner with the PBC, they will have an option to fight on their fighters to go to ESPN, to go to Showtime, or go to Fox. When they don't partner with the PBC, they're pretty much right there on ESPN, or they may be there on DAZN, and we all know that DAZN is fleeting. It, doesn't necessarily look like it's going to have the strongest presence in the United States after a little while. But anyway, I think that this is a fun conversation, and I certainly hope that these fights can be made. My pick for Shakur versus Chris Colbert would be Shakur Stevenson, but you never know how that goes, man. They're both upper level fighters, and also, man, there's also an opportunity for Gary Russell Jr. to move up into that equation, because before the Gutierrez fight was ordered, I know that out of the word of Chris Colbert that he was in talks to fight Gary Russell Jr. So anyway, I just hope some of those East Coast matchups can be made, man, so we can see some of the best fighters in the world who just happen to be from that area get to fight each other. That's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.